This is Goku's son DBZ, and I thought I'd do a quick little bit of talking while I show some of the artwork from a couple of the Tekken games. I'll be just doing artwork from the original Tekken to Tekken Tag Tournament. And Tekken 4 onward will be individual videos on each of them. I'm doing separate videos also on the endings of each character, but first we're going to look at the artwork. First from Tekken 1, which there's not a lot, which is why I'm doing 1 through tag. First, of course, this is one of the original posters from actually when the game was first being released. I actually remember this specific poster. Just barely, keep in mind, this was 25 years ago when the game launched in North America. That was within the first year of getting my original PlayStation. So it's definitely something to remember, the fact it's been 25 years since Tekken 1 was launched in America. 26 years in Japan. But yeah, first picture definitely holds a special place for me. Next one, of course, we just see standing all the different characters of the original baseline with very different back in those. Keep in mind, graphically speaking, this is really good because this was one of the first polygon-based fighting games. Of course, Virtual Fighter gets the honor of being the very first. But Tekken was one of the first. In fact, it was in the first 5 polygon-based fighting games ever made. It really took a lot of stuff, elements from Virtual Fighter, and really extended it forward in many areas, definitely in aspects. Graphically, it's definitely far more advanced than Virtual Fighter. Now, Virtual Fighter remixing it, or I would say a little bit closer. Now, also around this time period was also, of course, Ballerina to Shinden, which graphically did look better, I think, in a lot of areas than the others. And definitely a great soundtrack. But there's something special about the Tekken series. Tekken was the first 3D fighting game series I ever got into. Technically, Ballerina to Shinden was the very first 3D fighting game I ever played on home console. I still barely remember playing the original Virtual Fighter in an arcade cabinet at one of the old movie theaters where I lived when I was a kid. Looking at some of these other close-ups, like I said, graphically this looks pretty obviously very dated today, but keep in mind, when this first came out in 1994 in Japan, 95 in America, this was top of the line. It was mind-blowing, the graphics at that time, for 2.5 decades ago. Another close-up, I actually think, because it's using the animal mask and everything, actually makes, I think, Auburn King, or rather just King, look better. He's probably aged the best, because not having a normal face. And of course, that is the DLC characters. Obviously, a weird Jack, prototype Jack. And yeah, you have some interesting skins and things, obviously, with that being the first design for Kuma, obviously, and Armored King without the armor. Li Chao Lung, Ganryu, Wang, An, Ganryu, and of course Heihachi Mishima. And I believe this was the last. This was a special poster. I only remember barely this poster being like advertisement for the game's launch on home console at that time Electronics Boutique, also known as EB Games, which of course now is part of GameStop, just like Babbage's. But I was a big fan. Now let's look at some of the base artwork for Tekken 2. Now you can see the drastic increase in the graphics department from Tekken 1 to Tekken 2. Leaving from 1994 of Tekken 1 to Tekken 2, which was launched in North America though in 1996. This game looks I think, incredibly good for being, well, launching or whatever you want to say. 19 years old. This looks, or not 19. I keep forgetting this is 2020 now and everything. 24 years old. Hard to believe. June, I think, genuinely was one of the, easily probably, from the time period, probably the best looking female character in a 3D fighting game. At least design and the detail and the facials and everything. I just feel she was easily the best designed female character in fighting games, at least until a couple years later. And Heihachi looks so much better. They managed to perfect better his design overall. Then, of course, we have this, where obviously in this game, Heihachi was dethroned because he lost the previous tournament, and his son, Kazuya, also, of course, being the ultimate form in the game, Devil, to defeat. And I always did love that purple suit of his, especially just the color, the way they did the suit in those art pieces, looks awesome. Of course, you have there June, and this would be the debut game also for Lei Wulong, which of course is best well known for Drunken style, which specifically was made famous, and obviously he was heavily, the character design was heavily influenced by Jackie Chan. Pieces of art, this is probably one of the best, I think, posters that were released for the game. Yeah, Lee doesn't look the greatest, but look how epic in the background Armored King looks with his armor and everything. He just looks awesome. I've always enjoyed Armored King as a character. Of course, there we have, obviously, Nina Williams. Heihachi. Now that looks pretty awesome right there. The face-to-face between Heihachi and Kazuya. The battle for the Mishima's Zaibatsu. Now, if you're curious, why is in the background, obviously, it's pure black and dark in the background in a lot of early 3D fighters, because that's the only way you could handle the graphics and stuff at that time. It wouldn't really be until the PlayStation 2 era that would be able to handle that stuff a lot better. Well, PS2 and Dreamcast would be the first consoles really to be able to handle backgrounds better in full 3D, rather than using just pictures and stuff in the background like 3D fires up until, obviously, more towards Tekken 3 onward. Pretty cool. And that's a pretty nice poster there with, like, all of the different characters starting off in the distance. But it is kind of cool how they have Heihachi standing in the center of the group like that. It is definitely awesome. Now, I think, at least until Tekken 3, I really liked this specific design of Yoshimitsu, because it genuinely, you can see his ears and everything behind the mask. You can tell that's a human in the armor. Really, Tekken 3 onward, you cannot tell that. But this to me is very iconic picture right there. And now we go to, in many people's opinions, including myself, probably the most iconic of the Tekken series, Tekken 3, which would be really the first of its breed. It's hard to believe this was a PS1 game and it ran at 60 frames per second. That is mind-blowing to think. Even to this day there are some 3D fighters that occasionally have frame rate issues, but to imagine a PS1 3D fighter ran 60 frames per second is incredible. And definitely, if you look here, you can see how also, even once again, the graphics skyrocket in detail. Keep in mind, Tekken 3 was released in 1998, getting late into the PS3 lifespan. 98 to 99 would see some incredible graphic games at this time. And there's one, of course, of, at that time, brand new character Bryan Fury, which since has definitely become a staple of the Tekken franchise. And he has always been one of my top 10 favorite Tekken characters of the franchise. He was easily, probably in my easily top 10 if not top 5 favorite characters in Tekken 3. I really liked Bryan Fury though in Tekken 4, Tekken Tag, and even into Tekken 5. Really, I didn't care as much for Bryan in Tekken 6. Tekken 7, I do like him. Now here's a pretty cool picture with, of course, at that time also new characters. I don't know if you want to call him Hwoarang, Guam, whatever. The point is, in this game of the new characters, I will say most people probably choose Jin Kazama as their favorite new character introduced in this game. He is awesome looking and everything, but he was not my favorite new character in the game. That was actually Hwoarang. For me personally, was my favorite character, easily my #1 favorite character to play as to this day in Tekken 3. Though since those years, I would say Jin Kazama has probably ended up in my top 5 favorite characters to play as in Tekken 3, along with Heihachi. And this is easily, in my opinion, to this day, the best design of Yoshimitsu. Easily the greatest version of him, and I'm glad they chose this version for Tekken Tag Tournament 1. Just because look how beautiful his design is. I mean, seriously, it's just awesome looking. And then we have a close-up, of course, of the transformation of Jin Kazama, which is pretty good. Next we have, of course, a row of some of the newer characters. Definitely, over the years, I will say Eddy Gordo has definitely become a real fan favorite of many people. Understanding, Eddy is pretty cool, but let's be honest, there is a reason why people joke and call him easy mode, because of how easy it is to do a lot of his kick combos. And to be fair, if you play with Eddy and learn just the basics of his, like, copy arrow style, which is kind of like a combination of dance and martial arts. It's a style that base origins comes from, of course, Africa. But, of course, we see other staple, though did not like her design in this game, obviously. I much prefer her redesign in Tekken 4 onward. Now this is a pretty sweet poster. Now this is a poster I actually remember seeing in a local arcade, which I miss so much, the fact that they closed back in the mid-2000s. About 15 years ago, that arcade shut down, which sucks. Tekken 3 was one of the arcade machines I remember playing, though, in that arcade. And this was the artwork on the side of the cabinet. Definitely gorgeous artwork. Of course, that's a pretty cool piece of art. Now, the interesting thing is the art of this specific picture uses more of the art style we would end up seeing in Soul Calibur series, interestingly enough. Same as this. It is interesting to see some stuff that would become staple art styles of Soul Calibur in a Tekken game. And of course, the most iconic, the cover art for Tekken 3 for PS1. And obviously, that background, the eye and everything, that's obviously Ogre, which in my opinion is still one of my top 3 favorite bosses in the franchise. He's definitely probably one of the easier bosses, to be fair, especially his true Ogre form. But still, awesome looking boss. And Jin's design is actually really good, I think, overall. Now on to the last one to talk in this video about. Tekken Tag Tournament. First up, of course, we see picture with grandson and grandfather, Heihachi and Jin. You can really tell the increased graphic detail and everything because, I mean, you can tell just by the fact they were able to pay attention more to details like the veins popping out in the face of Heihachi, as well as the more textures on the wrinkles of his face and other details, like even you can see like little bits of like hair and stuff on his chin. The detail is ridiculous, and keep in mind this was the very first Tekken game and pretty much about the first fighting game on the PlayStation 2. Graphically, this game still looks incredibly well for its time. Of course, we have this one with Kazuya and Heihachi. I don't think Kazuya looks quite as good in this picture render as he does actually in game. June looks even way better in this game. As I said, I think design-wise she was always easily my top 3 favorite female characters in the Tekken series. I just liked her basic design, and her fighting style is definitely unique. And I thought the white and stuff on her actually fit her character very much, given she was supposed to be more of like a pure type character. Of course, here we have another one of June, which she was known about her love for the Force and things, if you read like some of the old Tekken comics, and also even check out the anime movie, which I recommend. And of course this epic scene at the end of the CG opening cutscene, where then like the energy of Devil pops out of Kazuya. That is just an epic moment, and I love Kazuya. I was glad they brought back the purple suit, but also I actually thought it was cool adding the stripes, but adding the black leather jacket just made it even more badass looking. Yes, I admit I have a bad obsession over edge characters. I was big into the edgy stuff. I was a new metal fan, what do you expect? Nina Williams. Now this is actually a pretty good render, I think, of her. Not quite as good. Now here's a really good piece of artwork I remember poster. And there you see the reflection Devil actually, which is a cool little head nod and stuff right there, showing Devil's face in the reflection of Kazuya. Was definitely a nice touch. Now the detail in Bryan Fury in this game, I mean, it's insane. You can tell they actually did spend a lot of time and detail on characters like Bryan Fury. Especially in the opening cutscene, I mean, the detail of like his scar and everything, even the detail of like his eyes, the coloration, the way the light reflects. It's insane how good these pieces of art look for a game that is 20 years old. That's insane. Another picture of Kazuya, really a pretty nice like evil glare. And of course we have the awesome design boss, Unknown, which in my opinion is easily, I think, maybe the coolest female boss character in any fighting game ever. I'll admit I'm biased because of also having that, like, that spirit werewolf creature behind her. And that's one thing I didn't like about Unknown in Tekken Tag Tournament 2, is the fact that the beast creature was gone, though if you watch it callers her closing cinematic cutscene, she basically overtakes and defeats the creature trying to manipulate and control. But there's a lot more and stuff really to this. Look at that, for instance. It looks almost, if you look at the creature's body, you'll see human faces. I bet that's a lot of people never really paid attention to. And details and stuff is, yeah, these are human faces on the creature's body because it devours human souls. That's what it was doing, manipulating her. And I like also the fact the detail, like with the way her eyes glare, like it would be wolf eyes. See, that's the thing. Her design is superb, and I think even the creature's design is really good. The detail on him. The teeth, the fur, even like damage on the fangs, and like I said, the faces on the creature's body. That's something most people probably never even paid attention to. But these are things you notice when you play games for so many years, and you pay attention in detail. And of course, a classic smirk of Heihachi. And that's it, and I hope you enjoyed this. Next time, we will look at the artwork from Tekken 4, and I'll see y'all next time. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel.